And because so many people had access and the opportunity to enter the room, any one of the classmates could have committed the crime. Any one of you and Pap had the means and opportunity to commit this crime.
That means that the key to unraveling this mystery is the motive.
Yes, that's right. And yet, it was the condition of the skeleton that gave me my first clue.
Yes, you've mentioned this skeleton several times this evening. What is it about the skeleton?
Doesn't anybody see it?
I think CD saw
something about it.
That's right, you said you also knew.
Oh, yeah, after Miss Logan pointed it out, you all noticed. Norm even commented on it when he was teasing Frida. Pip Skeleton has no clothes.
Of course. But why would he have taken his clothes off?
He didn't. His killer did. Sometime before Pip was locked in.
But why? And how did he get them?
Well, they could have been searching for something on Pip's body, but I don't think that was the reason. As to the how, do you all remember the glass that was found by Pip's body? Remember that clouded substance that covered the bottom? Well, I suspect that that's some sort of sleeping potion, and a forensics test will reveal that. The killer arranged for Amber to take the drink to Pip. They relied on the excitement of the evening and Amber being easily confused. would erase the memory of exactly who arranged for the drink delivery.
And that would explain why he didn't call out for help. He must have been out until we were all gone.
And while he was unconscious, but before the vault was sealed, the killer went back in while you all partied up here. And he made sure that Pip was still unconscious. Then he removed his clothes, covered him with this tarp, turning out the light as he left.
Right, and he was asleep when Norm and Ned locked him in. In a way, Norm and Ned did it!
No, I didn't know. Honestly, swear I didn't know. I didn't know
Norm, I believe you. I believe you. Neither you nor Nan had anything to do with Pip's death. And if you hadn't closed that door, well, one of the others would have. And it's probable that nobody would have discovered the body, because the killer planned on you all being loyal to your oath to keep the vault sealed. And they also had good reason to believe that nobody would go back into the vault, since you had all been in there earlier that evening.
Does that mean that the idea for the vault was part of the plan to kill Pip?
No, I don't think so. I think the killer seized on the idea after you all developed your plan for the vault. But they had to assure that Pip would be alone in the vault long enough for it to work. He also had to be rendered incapable of calling out, and that's where the sleeping potion came in. However, he had to be alone long enough for it to work. And this was accomplished by a suggestion to meet in the vault after all the others had left. A suggestion that was probably made by a note slipped to him the night before during an evening rendezvous, or that note just slipped right to him.
So what you're saying is they wrote the note in invisible ink. And CD was the one who knew how to do that.
But CD didn't write that note. Somebody else did. Somebody who knew the trick of the invisible ink, but not enough about it killed Pip. My guess is that Pip shared the story of how he and CD used the ink to write secret notes to each other as kids. And he told how they made the concoction out of lemon juice and vinegar. But what Pip didn't reveal was that holding that paper over a low flame causes the writing to reappear. CD would have known this and wouldn't have used the ink to set Pip up for his murder. But the killer did find another bit of CD's knowledge useful in covering up his crime.
And what was that, Miss Logan?
Well, that brings me back to the skeleton. The naked skeleton, whose clothes were removed for not what was in them, but what was on them. It's ironic, but if the killer had planned for Pip's body to be discovered shortly after the murder, there wouldn't have been any reason to strip the body. But who could have been sure what forensics techniques would be available 20 years from the date of the murder? And as CD was so convincing in relating, the police might one day be able to identify criminals by their saliva or by their blood.
There was blood on Pip's clothes. The culprit was afraid that the blood on Pip's clothes might be used to identify them. But the magazines were wrong. That can't happen, not yet anyway.
But the killer couldn't take the chance. Once the vault was sealed, there would be no access to it for 20 years. And if the procedures that you read about became a reality, it would have been the same thing as leaving a fingerprint. The clothes had to be removed, whatever the risk might be. And I suspect they were burned long ago.
Right. And Barbara had a cut on her hand. Remember, I told you so.
Yes, she did. And it was her blood from that cut that stained Pip's clothes.
This is utterly ridiculous. You can't possibly believe what you're saying.
On the contrary, not only do I believe it, but so will all the others in a few minutes. Besides that cut on your hand, there were several other bits of evidence that led me to you. And I was curious about why you would lie about the last time you and Pip had been together. If you recall, you said after you broke up with Pip, you only saw each other at school or here a few times at the malt shop.
Yes, that's correct. Pip and I were never together again alone after we broke up.
Except for the night that he came to see you by climbing the trellis to your room.
What? How? I mean, why would you say that?
Well, actually, it was something that Amber said.
What?
Huh?
Oh, wow.
When she asked Pip about the cut on his hand, she thought he said that he cut it on the lettuce. Well, actually, what he said was that he cut it on the lattice, the broken lattice. Another way to refer to the trellis that led to your room, the same one that you all acknowledged was used to sneak into your room. Well, while either going to or coming from your room, he broke one of the lattice beams, cutting his hand.
All right, fine. He came to see me that night. He wanted to talk to me about marrying him, which of course I couldn't do.
Well, I should think not. You knew he was your brother.
No, I did not know that. And how could I possibly have known it?
Well, didn't you learn your relationship on your trip to Louisiana with Norm? Isn't that correct?
Yes, fine. I learned that we had the same father on that vacation. But Daddy left everything in his will to me.
Yeah, even though they're sort of related, Barb's father left everything to her in his will when he died.
Well, you know, there was that note. Remember that note? And you arranged for Pip to be alone. Do you remember that?
Can't prove it.
Yes, you did it. You did it. You arranged for Pip to be alone by sending him a note written in invisible ink. A note asking to meet you in the vault that night.
Can't prove it at all.
Well, besides the things on the note that we talked about, the invisible ink and the jukebox code, I noticed one other significant detail. You can just see it. It's a little pinhole. A hole that was made when the paper was pinned to something, possibly a bulletin board like the one in your room where you kept all your notes pinned, the ones that were so neat and orderly.
But, Miss Logan, Barb had no reason to kill Pip.
Well, the apparent lack of motive puzzled me for a while. And as CD said, the key to the mystery is the motive. But in the end, Barbara had the most basic motive of all, money. At least half of her inheritance left by her and Pip's father.
Yes, Pip and I shared the same father, but everything was left to me. Me.
Yeah, like I said, they were sort of related, but everything was left to her in the will.
Well, that's true as far as it goes, but Barbara knew something that we all overlooked. Pip knew it too, and it probably only took him a few